Amrita Sasprishta Rajasa Ramahojasa Utasto Megadalana Vajuta Ivavanaya Siddha Amrita Rasasprishta. The demons has been touched by the powerful mystic nectarian liquid. Vajasara, their bodies becoming invincible to thunderbolts. Maha Ojasa, being extremely strong. Utastu, again got up. Megadalana, that which goes through the clouds. Vajuta, lightning which penetrates the clouds. Eva, like. Vanaya, fiery. Translation. When the dead bodies of the demons came in touch with the nectar, their bodies became invincible to thunderbolts. Endowed with great strength, they got up like lightning penetrating clouds. I'll read the next one. Seeing Lord Shiva very much aggrieved and disappointed, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, considered how to stop this nuisance created by Mayadanava. Then Lord Brahma became a calf, and Lord Vishnu a cow, and at noon they entered the residence and drank all the nectar in the well. The demons could see the calf and the cow, but because of the illusion created by the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demons could not forbid them. The great mystic Mayadanava became aware that the calf and cow were drinking the nectar, and he could understand that this to be the unseen power of providence. Thus he spoke to the demons, who were grievously lamenting. Mayadanava said, "What has been destined by the Supreme Lord for oneself, for others, or for both oneself and others cannot be undone, anywhere or by anyone, whether one be a demigod, a demon, a human being, or anyone else." Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Lord is one, Krishna, the Vishnu Tattva. Krishna expands himself into Vishnu Tattva personal expansions, Swamsa, who control everything. Mayadanava said, "However I plan, you plan, or both of us plan, the Lord has planned what is to happen. No one's plan will be successful without his sanction. We may make our own various plans, but unless they are sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, they will never be successful. Hundreds and millions of plans are made by all kinds of living entities, but without the sanction of the Supreme Lord, they are futile." Om Agana Simarana Shagalandana Sarakaya Shaksharan Melikam Yena Tatsmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhastam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kidamayam Dadati Swabhadatam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhattacharya. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it's interesting that Mayadanava, the demons were killed, and Mayadanava brought them back to life. And then at the same time, he's saying that nobody can frustrate the plans of the Lord. So why is that? Why on the one hand is he saying nobody can change the plans of the Lord, but on the other hand, he's bringing people back to life? Because that would certainly seem to be changing the plan, right? If somebody dies, normally everyone's like, okay, call it a day. There's no point trying to revive them. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, yeah, that's also true. But it would seem, at least superficially, that they would have stayed dead if he'd not intervened. Because Mayadanava could have just said, well, it's the plan of the Lord, so they'll come back alive if that's what the Lord wants. But they only came back alive because he intervened. So why is it on the one hand he's saying it's the plan of the Lord, and on the other hand he's intervening? Like today, we may go out in Sankirtan, and you could say, well, it's up to the Lord, you know. If I'm going to distribute 100 Bhagavad Gitas and collect £1,000, then I will. But if it's the plan of the Lord that I do £30 and 3 Bhagavad Gitas, then that's what can I do? It's the plan of the Lord. You can have a not bothered attitude that you don't really care either way, and if it does happen, it happens, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. That's up to Krishna. If I don't do so well on Sankirtan, that's his problem. Or anything, you know, whatever is going on in your life. Everybody got a plan in their life? You got a plan? Anyone not got a plan? Everyone's got a plan there. Shishi Kodnitai Mai Pashashiki Jai. So if you have a plan, how attached are you to that plan? And how open are you to the plan of the Lord unfolding, which may not be your plan? What should be the proper attitude for a person about to make a plan? Yeah. Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj was saying, if you want to make Krishna laugh, tell him your plans, because he knows what's going to happen, and we only have a speculation about what's going to happen. We don't really know what's going to happen, which can work really well if you decide, okay, I'm going to put aside what my plan is, and I understand. I have faith that whatever Krishna's plan is the best plan for everybody. So rather than getting in the way of his plan, let me fall into his plan. What do you think Krishna's got planned for us? That we completely surrender all our material attachments and give ourselves completely to him. He knows that if we do that, that's when we'll be fully satisfied. So that's his plan. And then at the same time, he knows that we've got our plans. So then he engages us in a process of education to slowly break our plans and give us faith in his plan. But if we've got too much false ego, then we'll be fighting Krishna's plan all the time and trying to impose our plan of the way we think things should happen, you know. If you're open to Krishna's plan, then amazing things can happen that you don't plan yourself. And you just think, okay, well, let me just surrender. We're going to go to this place today. Like, say you're going to go to some place and you've been there before and it's been terrible. And then you don't want to go. You have a plan to go somewhere really nice. So you end up going to the place that you want to go to that you think is going to be really nice. And it turns out to be really, really terrible. And then the next day, you get sent to the place that you did want to go to the day before, and it turns out to be really, really good. So you have your idea of how you think things will work out. And so we have hindsight and we have foresight. So Krishna's got both. We only have a little bit of hindsight depending on how good our memory is, but we have no foresight. So how do we navigate our way through life? They say that life is like a river, and as you're going down the river, you can't change the course of the river because that's your karma, that's your destiny. But you can become very skilled in how you navigate down the river. Like you may go down the river and decide to stop eating meat, so that puts you into a particular course which avoids the rocks of cancer. Whereas if you hadn't abstained, then during your duration of life, you would have fallen over the rocks of cancer. And then there would be a waterfall of death after those rocks. and you avoid them and you go further on. And then there's another waterfall of intoxication, and you've avoided that one. So then there's another waterfall of illicit sex, and you've avoided that one. And then the waterfall of gambling, and you're steering clear of all those. And then, although it's the same river, suddenly you're going much, much further. And then you go to the furthest waterfall, the Haribol, back to Godhead waterfall. And you go over that, Haribol. So, although we're not aware of what the course of the river is, we know that we can take precautions to make the navigation down the river as smooth and as successful as possible. So we lead our life in the mode of goodness, which means regulating your body. The morning program is there, so we have to look at that. Okay, if I'm going to be attentive to the morning program and I don't want to be attending to the body at that time, what things do I have to do to avoid? Do I need to eat less the night before, or even fast the night before? Then I get a clear, full morning program. Then I can attend to the body after that. Our lives should be revolving around our schedule, our program. That's mode of goodness. Mode of passion is you just act upon impulse, and a mode of ignorance is you do completely the opposite of what you should do. So Mahadanava, it's interesting because Mahadanava is helping the demons, but he also helps the devotees. Mahadanava built the big assembly house, 10 yojanas long, 80 miles. Imagine going into a building that's 80 miles long. That was the assembly house. The Sudama. Anybody that went inside the Sudama house, they weren't affected by old age, disease, any bad health. You could just have one of those set up, and everybody from all over the world could go there that had cancer. They would come out okay. So anyway, he's Krishna conscious enough to realize that ultimately, even if you do bend the rules a bit, which is quite a bit, if you can bring somebody back from death, ultimately, whatever the plan of the Lord is, it is, So he resigns himself to that fact. And of course, the demons, they accept him as God. So if he says that, then they will accept it, It's interesting that even though the demons are being instructed like that, they still can't make that ultimate step to accepting, okay, well, therefore, God's in control. Krishna says in the Gita, one who knows this, knows that I am in control, worships me with all their hearts. So we look at how much do we worship Krishna based upon how much faith do we have that he is actually God. If we had full faith that Krishna was God, then we would serve him with our full hearts. But because we lack faith, then we lack that fullness of heart. Shraddha, faith, means to put one's heart into it. Shraddha. They say that if you're coming up to a bar and you're about to jump over, first of all, throw your heart over the bar, and then your body will follow. So if you're making some endeavor for Krishna, put your heart into it, and then everything else will follow. Don't worry about your mind. Don't worry about your cold feet. Don't worry about anything else. Just worry about getting that heart over the bar. Throw that over, and everything else will come over. Any questions or comments? Find out what was intended for you by the Lord. And that is sort of really quite a long process. Sometimes you won't know until after it's happened. So you have to go the duration. That's why you have to be patient. You may be right now we're in the plan of the Lord, and we're not quite sure whether that's what we are wanting. But if we're patient, then when we look back on it, we realize, oh, that was perfect. That was a perfect arrangement. But we may not realize it at the time or before it's about to happen, that this is a perfect arrangement. So that's why Rupa Goswami says you have to be patient, because with patience comes hindsight, and hindsight and reflection, we can clearly see how Krishna was arranging everything. Although at the time it seemed to have gone wrong, you know. Like the family that was going to, they were going on a voyage, and one of the children was sick, and the family had to stay back, and they lost all their money on the voyage. So the father was really frustrated, because it was the only chance they were going to get. They were a very poor family. Anyway, the ship that they were going to go on was the Titanic. And so then he was very happy. But at the time, it didn't seem like it was such a good arrangement by the Lord, you know. But later on, when he looked, he thought, wow, I was saved, you know. I would have drowned. So in Krishna consciousness, sometimes devotees leave Krishna consciousness because they become frustrated and they think, you know, I had my plans and they're not happening, and it doesn't seem like Krishna is really helping me. Therefore, let me give up the process. So they discontinue their devotional service and they go back into Maya. And so they never really get to see that was the arrangement of Krishna. But if they continue on with determination and perseverance, then they reflect back a few years later and they realize, oh, I was thinking this was all going wrong, you know. I wanted to get married like anything, but this lady that I wanted to get married to, turns out she was actually really crazy. So Krishna saved me. But at the time I had my plan, and this didn't fall in with the plan. Always Krishna does everything for our benefit. But it's just that sometimes it doesn't seem like that. So there needs to be patience. And patience also means there needs to be faith. Because to continue on when things seem wrong or unjust or chaotic, you need to have faith to do that. Obviously, the more you do it, the more you get used to when the clouds of despair come over you, you know that it's just a question of time before the rays of sunshine will again penetrate and give us new hope, new inspiration.
How can we find out what is the plan? For us, is just like performing devotional service or connecting to the pure devotee?
Well, it's mentioned, isn't it, in the Nectar of Devotion, that contact with the pure devotee. And contact really means to take initiation. Because the pure devotee is worthy of being a spiritual master. So we contact, we take initiation if the spiritual master is kind enough to accept us as a disciple. And then that's when we find out what the plan of the Lord is, because we're in touch with somebody that's in touch with the Lord. Like Prabhupada, he had a whole plan, a whole strategy. And then he said, okay, do this, get up at this time, eat this, follow these rules, chant this mantra, and everything's fine. So he had a real plan. He had it really worked out exactly what it was that the living entities in Kali Yuga needed to do to get out of the wheel of birth and death. But in the beginning, that wasn't their plan. The hippies were thinking, oh, well, this Krishna consciousness is like a far-out LSD trip. You just chant this mantra and you get really high, and you eat this food, and you sing and dance, and you feel like you've just had a load of LSD or whatever it was that they were taking, you know. So they didn't really understand what it was. And Prabhupada didn't explain too much either. He just gave them the mantra, the prasadam. And then as they became purified, they would start becoming more aware of what the actual plan was, to give up all sense gratification, all intoxication, all illicit sex. And Prabhupada knew he wouldn't attract the hippies initially if he was just going around telling everybody that. So sometimes we have to be tricked because our plan is so much against what the proper plan should be for us. Therefore, we're tricked into thinking, oh, this is this is going to fit in with my plan, great. And as we're going along, we suddenly realize this is not going to fit in with my plan at all. Let me make a new plan. Has anybody experienced having a plan and then changing the plan? And then the best plan is to always plan to try and fall in with Krishna's plan. And we don't know. We don't even know day by day what Krishna's. We don't know what the plan is today for Krishna, what Krishna, who he wants us to see, which people he wants us to give a book to, what he wants us to say to that person. Like one devotee just stopped someone and said, read this book, it'll stop you committing suicide. And then that lady turned up at the Sunday feast and she said, thanks for saving my life. I read the book and I was going to commit suicide, but after I read the book, I was convinced I shouldn't. So Krishna just spoke through him. He's never said that before. He just said it completely out of the blue. From the blue boy. So isn't that amazing to meditate that we're going to meet today maybe we'll engage 50 people, 40, 50 people are standing out there right now waiting to be engaged, and they're going to come in contact with us today, and we'll engage them in devotional service. That's Krishna's plan. Actually, Krishna's plan is that we meet these 40 or 50 people and they become pure devotees. But for that full plan for Krishna to take place, we have to be pure devotees ourselves. Otherwise, Krishna's plan is impeded by our impurity. Just like Srila Prabhupada, he's in Russia. And how many people are there in Russia? He's walking across this square and he bumps into this Russian. And that Russian became an initiated disciple, and he did so much service, preached so much, distributed so many books. So that's what a pure devotee can do, you know. He can just meet the right person at the right time. So if we can become completely surrendered to wherever the plan is of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada said a really interesting thing as well. He said, if everybody leaves, we should be so determined that if everybody else leaves this Krishna consciousness movement, we should be determined to push it on our own. That's quite, you have to be very determined to do that. And just because you'd be thinking, well, look, everyone's giving it up. It must be too difficult. It's impossible. This is just an impossible thing. Therefore, I'm going to stop doing it as well. That would be the conclusion, right? Nobody else can do it, so let's change it. Let's make it 3 rags and 4 rounds instead. Everyone can do that, and then it'll spread. Yeah, Rainus Prabhu.
When you go on strictly, what is we have maybe just 1 hour or 2 hours, it doesn't go well, and so there's this tendency to kind of like go somewhere else. I feel like we should just kind of like stay and just keep. We have variety, for example. One specific spot.
Srila Prabhupada said chant 64 rounds, then he said 32, and then finally said 16. So he was willing to adapt. So sometimes you go to a place and it's not happening, and you try, and then time's ticking away. So you should be looking at, okay, I've been here now an hour and no one stopped. Normally I can stop a few people by this time. So right now at my level of Krishna consciousness, I'm not strong enough to be able to penetrate through the conditioning that these particular people have in this locality. So therefore I may need to change and go somewhere else. And I've experienced it many occasions where you've gone somewhere else and suddenly you've done really well, and you've been somewhere else and it's just been like knocking your head against a brick wall, you know. So we shouldn't just get into this mechanical, unthinking mode that we just go like robots, and I'm not attached to the result, I'm just doing the activity. We should be attached to the results also for Krishna's pleasure, that we want to do books. We want them to go out. If it's not working here, then we have to try somewhere else, or we have to try something else. We have to try speaking in a different way, approaching them in a different way. It's a different type of person that's here, and they're not responding in the way that people normally do, you know. That's why Edinburgh is interesting, because you're meeting people from all over the world there. In Glasgow to some degree. And some people take to you better than others, you know. Sometimes it's you're good with old people, you're good with young people, you're good with people from this part of the world or from that, you know. So you find out the type of people that you're attractive to and that you can engage. And then you do that, you know. And then you keep trying to engage the others that you find difficult to engage. Like, it's very hard to engage a businessman on the street. You see a man walking down the road with a suit on, little top hat and a briefcase and an umbrella, and you're almost like, there's no point, you know, trying to stop them. And there's other ones like dreadlocks, big baggy trousers and big ears, those big things, and you think, oh, this guy looks like he'll be into this type of thing, you know. Yeah, so be versatile, use your intelligence, and analyze what's happening. Okay, I've been saying this and doing this for an hour and nothing's happening. Okay, I need to change something then. Change location, change the attitude, change my accent. Hello there, I'm a little monk from Lismahigo. You can try the Irish accent. Can you do the Irish accent? Can you do the Irish accent, Jananda? Okay. ISKCON Guru in the key. Srila Prabhupada ki. Shishikoda Thai Mai Pashashi ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All of you ki jai. This fly's been around now for a month.
Yeah.
I didn't think they live that long. Either that or they keep dying and then